cool.
Yeah.
I was saying backstage, this is like, I feel like we should be doing a routine or like Beyonce or something
like
out here.
Free Bird or something.
Yeah, go ahead, you could sing it. I'm just kidding.
I actually don't know that song.
Well,
Hi, everybody, thank you.
Yeah, you guys, thank you so much for being here, and I'm so excited to sit down with you. You are an incredible actor, but also an entrepreneur, and I don't know how many folks know all you've done online for artists and helping them collaborate. But before we get into hitRECord, I just want to talk about the internet. I just feel like you have been kind of obsessed or interested in the internet. Before YouTube was created, you were creating these videos on your own. You've always been very artistic about utilizing the internet. What has been so fascinating about it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my dad was always really into computers, and he always made sure, even from the beginning, like, we had a Commodore 64, and then we had, you know, the computers that were just text-based DOS, and I remember just practicing saying, like, CD \, okay, CD space, CD star dot star, and just, like, sitting there when I was 5 or 6 years old, just getting a kick out of, like, using a computer. And I remember when Windows started, and I was always on PCs until I sort of started using Apple's when Final Cut Pro started, and I was able to like edit video in my house. That was incredible. Like, now we take it for granted that you can edit video just on your phone or whatever, but when I was growing up and we wanted to make videos, if you wanted to edit it, it was very, very hard. You had to like dub stuff on a, you know, from your hi-8 cassette to your VHS, VCR, and it was like really, really hard. And I was so thrilled. They're like, wow, now you can edit just like they do in the big studios. You can do it at home. And that was probably when I was like 21. I think I got my first copy of Final Cut Pro. And I've just always been amazed and sort of in love with what you can do with computers and with new technology.
And you took that, I mean, to your career. So you're this movie star, you're a successful actor. I mean, you know it, it's true. All these people know you're a successful actor. But you also decided to start this online platform for artists. So take me to that point in your career where, you know, you're doing this one thing, and then all of a sudden you think, well, this would also be a really fun thing to do. I'm going to just start kind of my own little company on the side with my not so busy schedule.
I mean, the truth is, when hitRECord started, my schedule was not very busy, and I didn't think of it as a company. It was just out of a time in my life when I wanted to be acting and I couldn't get a part. Because I grew up acting and then I quit for a while to go to school, and when I came back, no one would give me a part, and that was really upsetting. And hitRECord was just this little thing I would say to myself. I made kind of a metaphor out of the red record button and the action of hitting it, and sort of thought I was very clever to make this bit of wordplay between, you know, the action of hitting record versus the object of a hit record. And that's where it started, and it was just this little thing I was doing myself. And I never thought of it as a production company or as a television show, or as, I wasn't even thinking of it as a place for a community. It was just this little thing for myself. And my brother helped me set up this little website, and slowly a community started to form. And from there, it was always just sort of a back and forth between us and the community.
And so tell us exactly how it works. This is a place for artists to go kind of do their thing, but they also, unlike many places on the internet where you put your stuff, they also get paid for it. So explain kind of the premise.
Sure. Well, so we say it's an online community that works together as a production company. And, you know, working together is a big part of it, because I find a lot of what goes on online nowadays is very much about, you know, me, look at me, everyone check out the song that I made or the video that I made. And on hitRECord, it's more about, okay, what can we all do together if we collaborate? So everything on the site or on our app is designed to try to facilitate that kind of collaboration, people working together, not just showing off their own stuff. And then when that collaborative process leads to finished things, like short films or like television shows or like books or like records, and we're able to make money with those things, then the artists get fairly paid.
Wow, so how much have artists been paid throughout this process? Do you have a ballpark number?
Yeah, we just passed $2 million. Yeah! Someone scream. Well, yeah,
cool.
so it goes around to all these different people. It's like our community's in 100 different countries all over the world. And, you know, the money, I always say, there's actually this really great quote. We don't make movies to make money, we make money to make more movies. And I think that that's really the attitude amongst the community. Like, it feels good to get paid when you do something, and I think it's only fair if you do something that helps to make money that you get some of that money. But people, I think they care more about just being a part of a community that's sincere and positive and productive and, you know, expressing themselves. It feels good, and it's different than, you know, some of the, like I said, sort of, dare I say, more narcissistically oriented communities that you find on the internet.
Well, I like what you said about it. I was reading, you said all those hours you spend on the internet can add up to something. I mean, it's this idea that we are so connected now, and it is. It's all about what are we tweeting, what are we doing. This forum is essentially a way to work with other people, to grow, and to potentially create something together.
Well, that's just it. Like, I feel like we're really at the very beginning of what the internet is, or what even computers are. I was just listening to this really great talk by a guy named Alan Kay. Techies out there might know who Alan Kay is. He invented object-oriented programming and graphical user interface, like this incredible thinker. And he was talking about how technology evolves. And he was talking about the printing press. And when the printing press first arrived on the scene, all they did with it was print Bibles for like 100 years. They didn't do anything particularly revolutionary with it. But after a few generations of people growing up with the printing press, it led to the advent of science and democracy and the Industrial Revolution and like some of the most important big pieces of progress ever in human history. But it took a few generations. So I feel like, you know, you and I were of the generation that grew up with the Commodore 64 and with text-based DOS and with, you know, the earliest Windows, and sort of we're the first ones to get it. I'm excited about what generations coming are going to do with it, and I think what they're going to do is not just socialize. They're not just going to like talk or take pictures of their lunch or things like that. They're going to work together to make things together that they couldn't have made on their own.
It's a good thought. It's a good thought. I love also your optimism about technology.
You gotta be optimistic, especially today, man. You gotta be optimistic.
And I think one of the interesting themes this year at Web Summit is this idea that kind of technology is neutral. It can be used for good or bad, and we almost have to start asking ourselves these questions, right? You talk about, are we becoming a little narcissistic with all the social media? How can we collaborate? You guys collaborated with hitRECord and the ACLU, and you did a series called Are You There, Democracy? It's Me, the Internet, which is a great series. You guys should watch it. And you pulled in Snowden, who I think you have some connection with, so I hear. And he spoke a lot about it. And the question was, you know, is technology good or bad for democracy? As someone who has created technology, who has kind of studied Snowden and gotten in his head, what do you think? Is technology good or bad for democracy? We're crowdsourcing this video and this thought, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said, technology is sort of, it depends on how we use it. And certainly there are plenty of potential pitfalls for what this new technology can be and how it can impact our democracy. And I mean, the Edward Snowden story is a great example of those potential pitfalls. You know, we could end up with some kind of mass surveillance authoritarian situation if we're not careful and we don't raise our hands against it. But you know, Snowden himself, when he answered this question, it was really cool. He joined the site and he contributed a video where he answered this question. And he was actually really optimistic. And even he, who had seen sort of the worst of what this technology can do, he was very optimistic. And he talked about, I think, moving into the future, technology will provide us more liberty, will provide us, you know, whether it's because of renewable energy or advances in science or in medicine or in education or whatever it is, technology can move us forward and ultimately if you really zoom out, things are getting better and better. You know, if you compare our life today with life from 100 years ago, by almost any measure, whether it's, you know, poverty levels or infant mortality or literacy or whatever it is, things are better now than they used to be. And I think most of that progress is due to technology.
And can you, and I know you've done a lot, I was saying this before, you've done a lot of press describing Snowden and whatnot, but just like, take me to that first meeting. Like, you're going in, you're meeting Snowden for the first time. Did anything like surprise you about him?
I'll tell you, this is the truth. One of the very, very first things he said to me was, perhaps you can settle a bet between me and Lindsay. Lindsay is his longtime girlfriend. And he said, is it hitRECord or hitRECord? He really asked me that. I was pretty honored that he knew what it was. This is
and now he's on the service.
Yeah, he joined the site.
Is that why you did the movie?
Is that why I did the movie?
To get him on hitRECord?
Exactly. That was the whole plan the entire time. I was like, I know.
Well, when I always come up here for Web Summit, I talk to entrepreneurs, and we always talk about great success. And we celebrate success. But a big part of entrepreneurship, and I would consider you a real entrepreneur, whether it's with movies or the online platform you're creating to encourage artists online. But you can't talk about success without talking about failure. That's such a big part of it. So can you just take us to a moment? I mean, what role has failure played in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. All right, well, so this reminds me of a story. For the first number of years, hitRECord was just this hobby thing that my brother and I did. And then when we decided to try to launch it as more of a company and, you know, create a legal terms of service and figure out how we can actually have these productions and, you know, deal with the intellectual property of it all and pay artists if they make money, et cetera. We launched that in 2010, and we wanted to launch the website on 11/11/2009. Just because 11/11 was always sort of a special thing that my brother and I always, you know, watched the clock and we'd be like, it's 11/11, full brick shit house and whatever. Just why. And we made a big deal out of it. Like, we made a whole bunch of videos talking about how on 11/11 we were gonna launch this new website and it was gonna like take the community to the next level, and we were so excited about it. And you know, like probably Halloween came around or so, and we're like, we're definitely not gonna have this done by 11/11. And it was an important lesson. We didn't get it done by 11/11. We were able to launch it, you know, a couple months later. Luckily, by the time we were at Sundance, supposedly presenting it to the world. But I learned at that point, we never say what date we're gonna launch a feature set anymore. Because I mean, look, technology is sort of not my area of expertise. I grew up on movie sets and stuff, working to make shows and things. So it's all kind of been a learning experience for me running what's sort of a half media and half technology company. And I've learned now, you do things iteratively, and you don't necessarily eventize the launch of a feature set, because that just isn't reliable the way like you can eventize the launch of a movie coming out. But I never would have learned that if I hadn't had that failure. And I know it sounds like a small deal now because it was years ago and the community wasn't that big back then, but trust me, back on 11/11, you know, 2009, I was fucking devastated that we missed our deadline, you know?
Well, it also sounds like, I mean, you took a risk by kind of taking a break from acting, and you went to school, and you're talking about how you didn't really have a job, you couldn't really get a job, and that's how this whole thing kind of came about.
Yeah, true.
So it certainly seems like, you know, not being able to have something tangible opened up this whole new creative part of you. So for anyone who's maybe having a bad day or they're not doing so great, like that's when some of the creativity happens, when like things aren't going your way.
I mean, I definitely find that it's oftentimes in those moments of pain or anxiety or sadness or discontent that where I really like just feel compelled to sit down and, you know, write something or make something or do something. You know, why do you think so many great songs are sad? I don't know.
And last question, if you could extract kind of a theme from your career, the way you choose to live, I mean, you're a celebrity, but you're private about it, you're not kind of this me kind of person. if you could extract a theme from your career, the types of projects you choose, the kind of life you choose to live, what do you think that theme would be?
Wow.
You're also like a director and all these things, so I figured you'd have a creative answer.
Yeah,
so I thought I'd just
thanks.
throw this one to you at the end.
I mean, when I was growing up and working as an actor, even as a kid, I'm really grateful that my parents never emphasized the success, really. They never emphasized, you gotta get this part, you gotta make that money, you gotta get, more well-known. They never did. All they ever emphasized was, hey, if you like doing this, then we'll help you keep doing it. And if you ever don't like doing it, you can stop whenever you want. And I think that was one of the smartest choices that they made as parents. I'm so grateful that they did it that way, because it resulted in me just always loving what I was doing. And I don't know, maybe there's something in that.
Great. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. And I know you're speaking throughout the conference again. So any preview of what folks will hear if they come see your chat?
Yeah, I mean, the talk that I'm going to give is sort of, it's all about communities of people online making things together, kind of what we were talking about a minute ago of how can people come together and actually be productive rather than just sort of socialize, and sort of breaking down some of the principles that we've learned from running hitRECord for a number of years, and sharing those.
Cool. We look forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
guys. Appreciate it. All right.